So Rome, certain areas are much larger than others. And we're right now in an area that's more modern in Rome because back in the age of the Renaissance, this was very out in the outskirts of what was center Rome, the modern day Vatican, and also the modern day area where the Pantheon is located. Out here was the place of kind of much more poorer, low income crowd. So why did one of the most famous sculptors of the Renaissance, the man who worked with some of the most richest families of all of Italy, and also later on even the King of France, the Sun King himself, Louis XIV, why did he make one of the most magnificent sculptures in a tiny little church in the outskirts of Rome? Well, this master of sculpture was Gian Lorenzo Bernini. And Gian Lorenzo Bernini fell out of the favor of all the rich families of Rome and the Pope himself. Because once you had favor with the Pope, you had unlimited resources. And for many years, Bernini did have those unlimited resources. But he used those unlimited resources to try to build some huge 2 towers on top of the Vatican on very, very shaky ground. Those towers nearly collapsed on the Vatican and destroyed St. Peter's Basilica itself. For that story, we learned about it yesterday. However, what happened to Bernini? No one wanted to work with him. Also for another reason. Because Bernini, around that same time as he was trying to build these 2 huge towers on top of the Vatican that were going to collapse, that nearly did collapse, Bernini had a jealous rage against his own brother. Because Bernini was a man of many pleasures and he loved having his dalliances with very rich aristocratic women. However, one of those aristocratic women, the one he loved the most, the one that he made a sculpture of, she was also seeing his brother. And Bernini was very suspicious of this, and every day he would try to follow his brother around. Until one day, he followed his lover around. And late at night, he saw that his lover came out of her very expensive villa doors with his brother, and they were kissing. Bernini was absolutely enraged and he ran towards his brother, chased them down the streets of very expensive area of Rome where all the villas are located, probably around nearby Aventine Gardens that we might visit later on this week. Chased them down, and then when he got to him, he picked up a shovel that he saw on the ground and hit him on his side. That nearly killed Bernini's own kin. Luckily, his brother survived. However, Bernini's jealous rage did not end there. He sent his servant to go over at night to his former lover and ask him to give her a mark of shame. That mark of shame was a slash right on the face. No one knows how big the slash was. But what people do know is that that aristocratic woman was shamed for life. After that incident and the towers at the Vatican, Bernini was a social outcast. Went from the superstar of Rome, the superstar of Europe, to being one of the worst men to ever work with. So Bernini was desperate. He had to do something. So he accepted the only really job he could get at that time was to make a sculpture right here at Santa Maria Vittoria. And inside Santa Maria Vittoria, he was tasked with making a sculpture of a woman that caught headlines during his time, Saint Teresa of Avila. Saint Teresa of Avila was a woman already in her late age that claimed to have these very vivid visions of God. But for that, we have to walk inside, because I'll tell you her words, but I think it's better to listen to her words, which I have their direct quote, with the sculpture that Bernini made himself. Let's go inside Santa Maria Vittoria. And this is the official episode 3 of Mysteries of the Eternal City. The other one we'll just consider as a bonus, because this is the main story I actually really wanted to tell. Let's go inside. And here we are. Hello, Amanda. Hello, Simonetta. Ciao. Let me know where you're watching from. All right, everyone, brace yourself, because Bernini designed not only the sculpture, but the architecture that surrounds it. And he wanted to design that architecture that surrounds it in order to heighten the sense of looking at this sculpture called the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa of Avila. And here we are, the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. Scusi.
Gli artisti greci che hanno scolpito l'Illisso e l'Apollo hanno saputo fare di meglio. Ci hanno dato cioè la vera espressione della forza e della giustizia in tutta la sua onestà, ma quanto tutto ciò è lontano dalla
Cupid with the golden tipped arrow plunging into Saint Teresa. However, he's not plunging it into her heart. It's aiming much lower. Saint Teresa, her head is swung back in very heavy clothing in pure ecstasy. Covered by sun rays of light that are made by this beautiful gold-plated, seems to be woodwork, and the statue seems almost like if it's floating above. On the side, we see onlookers, an actual audience for the statue. Can you hear me now? There we go. Let me know if everyone's able to hear me. And above, we see these amazing clouds. So Bernini painted this out of desperation. He had to accept this gig that was all the way in kind of the outskirts of Rome, in a church that no one of note really visited. But he had to go all out because he had to make his name be heard once again. So he made this statue of Santa Teresa in ecstasy. But who is Santa Teresa? Well, Santa Teresa of Avila had these visions of God, But the thing is, these visions of God, to her, felt like a rapture. It felt like she was completely being taken in every single way by God himself. I'm going to read to you her exact words of how she described the experience of having these visions. Let me read it as I show you the statue. She says, I saw in his hands a long spear of gold at the iron's point. There seemed to be a little fire. He appeared to be thrusting it at times into my heart and to pierce at my very entrails. And when he drew it out, he seemed to draw them out as well and to leave me all on fire with a great love of God. The pain was so great that it made me moan, and yet so surpassing was the sweetness of the excessive pain that I could not wish to be rid of it. The soul is satisfied now with nothing less than God. The pain is not bodily, but spiritually, though the body has its share in it. It's a caressing of love so sweet, which now takes place between the soul and God, that I pray God by his holiness to make him experience it, who may think I am lying. So that was Saint Teresa's experience. And if you read it, you're reading it from my much deeper male voice, but if you hear a woman kind of reading this, it does sound rather sensual. It doesn't sound like your typical visions that you hear from like Moses or St. Francis. These visions are more felt by the body, more visceral, more sensual, more erotic even. And that's why Bernini decided to sculpt Teresa, not as she looked like when she had these visions. She was already in her kind of middle age, but instead a very beautiful woman, probably in her early 20s. And this skyrocketed him back into fame, because when people came in here, they came here in droves to this little-known church that almost no one visited to see the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. Saint Teresa was already a celebrity in her own right, but to see this captured into stone, this very moment of ecstasy being touched by God, people went crazy for it. And he won back the favor of the Pope. People are looking at it, so this almost is like a theatrical experience. Everything is done, the architecture is made. He even cut a hole through the wall in order for light to stream into the statue. Actually, the other hole is right down there. There we go. So that is not illuminated by artificial light. That is real light coming in from the outside. So Bernini became a superstar once again. This drew people from all around Italy, and they were absolutely amazed. People even came from pilgrimages all the way from Avila in Spain, to see their own patron saint being captivated by stone. So what happened to Bernini and his jealous rage and his kind of pompous architectural ambitions? Well, Bernini decided to devote himself to the Catholic religion. He was already pretty close with his religion, and hence that's why he had a good relationship with the Pope before then. But he decided to go a little bit further. He married, and he lived a much quieter life for the rest of his days. After sculpting this people did not doubt his ability at all. And most people who met Bernini after St. Teresa, after kind of making amends, something that his own contemporary Caravaggio was never able to do. Unfortunately, Caravaggio did murder a man, and he died while running away. Bernini managed to amend. And by having amends, he changed. And people noted this change. They said of him that he had this holy aura, that the man kind of felt grounded. He felt relatable. And that was very interesting compared to Caravaggio, who was a very notorious angry man, or Michelangelo, who kind of was very in his art. He pushed away the world, and he wrote a lot about sin. He was very holy as well, but he was a man who was unkempt and very hairy and very kind of didn't smell too well. But Bernini was loved by the people. So much love, similar to the ecstasy that my Teresa was experiencing. Was the statue in her account controversial since it seemed sexual? No. So I'll point it one more time because I have to start heading to Via Borghese. But she has very heavy clothing. Cupid is smiling, but Cupid is more kind of an angel, not the pagan Cupid that we know of. So no one saw it as sexual, though it does, frankly, in my opinion, sounds like she's describing an orgasm. And I don't think that's a far reach. I think it's very clear that that's probably what she's experiencing or describing. But at that time, they did still see it as a holy vision. And Saint Teresa wasn't really questioned. There might have been people who doubted her, but overall the Catholic religion did end up canonizing her pretty quickly. And the statue itself, people saw it for kind of this holy rapture rather than a orgasm. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed official episode 3 of Mysteries of the Eternal City. The other one, you can consider a bonus episode 3. I hope you enjoyed the story of Bernini. However, stay tuned because I'll be going inside more of Bernini's amazing artwork in the Galleria Borghese, where you'll see that his artwork definitely broke the bounds of Stoic sculptures of the Renaissance era and suddenly came into life, similar how we saw Teresa in full life inside Santa Maria Vittoria. We're going to see more of that in Galleria Borghese. So stay tuned in about an hour and 45 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be live every single day, 3 p.m. Rome time, 9 a.m. New York City time. And if you want to see more of these videos and want to see this channel grow so I can keep showing you history from all these wonderful cities, all these mysteries and secrets, and walk around while we're on live video, you can become a supporter down there. You'll get access to extra videos. If you're a supporter, you could attest that some of the videos are really interesting because we're getting very cool inside looks. Or you can leave a one-time contribution at paypal.me/Ariel Vieira. The links are in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and always keep on exploring. Have a great day, everyone. Arrivederci, amici. Ciao, amici.